you're tuning into this video, you obviously are interested or like baseball in some capacity. And one of the reasons we all love baseball, one of the many reasons we all watch Major League Baseball on a consistent basis, is because baseball is a sport unlike any other in the fact that the playing surface and the dimensions of the field that the players play on is not routinely consistent at every single stadium. Most people know this if you watch baseball or you know anything about baseball. You know that the fences are farther back or closer, depending on which stadium you go to. The walls, the outfield walls themselves, are higher, shorter, and a lot of variation goes into the total surface area of the playing field that these teams play on. This video might upset some fan bases, but I don't really care because I think it's something that needs to be talked about, and it's stat and data driven that will show you guys exactly which ballparks deserve to get a little bit more flack for their dimensions and which ballparks get too much flack for their dimensions. We have a full list of MLB park factors. We have a full list of home run statistics, and we're going to dive into all of it. But before we get into it, be sure to like the video, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you guys enjoyed this type of content. We're going to talk about which stadiums stink, which stadiums don't stink. So this right here is the 2022 MLB Stadium Park Factor chart. It's a lot of numbers, a lot of colors, a lot of data, a lot of different stadiums. But the bottom line is the top of the list is ranked based on park factor, and the more red the category, the more favorable it is to the hitter. So for example, at the top of the list, Coors Field is ranked #1 in park factor. And when you go across the board, you start to see a handful of different categories that you may not be aware of. Park factor is a statistic that is cumulatively calculated based on all the other categories of offensive expectations and offensive production at that ballpark. A word you're going to see a lot on here that may be a little bit misleading is bacon. As you can see, Coors Field is #1 for a multitude of different reasons. They're top of the list in every single cumulative offensive category: home runs, triples, doubles, singles, and most of that has to do with a handful of different categories. But most people know Coors Field is the highest elevation stadium in Major League Baseball. Therefore, the ball travels a lot further. And because the ball travels a lot further, the dimensions of the park have the fences set back further than any other field in Major League Baseball. When the fences are set back further, the acreage and total surface area of the outfield is larger. Therefore, more ground to cover for the outfielders. More balls fall in front of the outfielders. More balls find the gaps. More balls take longer to retrieve for the outfielders. Thus, more singles, more doubles, more triples. Also, a lot of home runs because the ball travels a lot further. But in this video, one of the stats that caught my attention that isn't listed on Park Factor that I believe needs to be talked about a lot more, that seems to be completely disregarded by the baseball community, is the unicorn home run. What is a unicorn home run? Every time a batter hits a baseball in any game at any time, because of the advanced metrics, because of the high-speed cameras and the technology that is available in the 21st century, we are able to calculate the exit velocity of the batted ball, how fast the ball came off the bat. We are also able to calculate the launch angle in which the ball comes off the bat. If the ball comes off the bat straight and flat, that is a 0-degree launch angle. If it comes off the bat into the ground, that is a -degree launch angle, -10 degrees, -5 degrees. With all this data that is available to us and knowing the dimensions of every single ballpark, we are able to calculate exit velo, launch angle, total distance traveled, which is one of the simpler ones to quantify because you just go where the ball landed, distance to home plate. A unicorn home run is a home run that would go out at one particular stadium and would only be a home run at that stadium. For example, if a batter hits a ball at Fenway Park, which has happened multiple times, right down the line, right near Pesky's pole, and the total distance traveled is 302 feet, 305 feet, 310 feet, no other ballpark and no other stadium in Major League Baseball has the dimensions down the right field line as short as 310 feet. So if a home run goes out at Fenway Park and it travels 310 feet right down the line, right at Pesky's pole, that would be considered a unicorn home run because it's only a home run at Fenway Park and nowhere else. The part that is interesting with this park factor adjusted metric ranking situation is that nobody seems to consider the unicorn home runs into the park factor rankings, and nobody seems to consider the pitching caliber and the team caliber in these park factor situations. Huge shout out to Fred Foch on YouTube. I'm going to link him in the description. I'll show you some of the videos here up on the screen, but he did a great job compiling every single unicorn home run of 2022 based on the metrics, the launch angle, the exit velo, the distance traveled, and all the things we just talked about. I took it upon myself to list out every single stadium that was included in the video. I also took the opportunity to list out how many of each home run was hit by the home team, how many of each home run was hit by the road team, and if that's sort of a deciding factor, because I had a piece of content that I put out on YouTube Shorts, on TikTok, on Instagram Reels, talking about how early on in the 22 season, there were 2 home runs in one game hit by the Yankees at Yankee Stadium that were both unicorn home runs. One was hit by Giancarlo Stanton, one was hit by DJ LeMahieu. I started off the video by saying, you know, Yankee Stadium is a joke. This home run shouldn't have been a homer. This home run shouldn't have been a homer. Nobody talks about it. And a lot of the feedback I got was from people, A, that were Yankees fans who I had hurt their feelings, apparently, and B, people like, dude, come on. The road team could hit the ball in the same spot. The road team could do this and that. And as soon as I see that type of comment or I hear something like that, my first thought is, but why would they? Why would the visiting team, the road team, have the subconscious or conscious wherewithal to decide, you know what, this is a pitch that I can hit just in the air to right field, and it would probably find its way out of the stadium? They don't play there every day. They don't practice there every day. They don't take batting practice there every day. But they do have equal opportunity to hit the ball out to the areas of the ballpark that would make it a unicorn home run or favor the hitter in some capacity. So I calculated out how many times each stadium had a unicorn home run. Here's the data that I came up with. The number 1 stadium with the most unicorn home runs was, you guessed it, Yankee Stadium. The dimensions of Yankee Stadium in right field, specifically straightaway right field, or the short porch as they like to refer it to, has allowed for a lot of different players to hit unicorn home runs to right field at Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium totaled out with 16 unicorn home runs. And you might be thinking, well, 16 home runs, that's got to be what, over the span of an entire week? According to the MLB Park Factor website, the total cumulative home runs hit at Yankee Stadium last year was 103, which ranks 13th in total of all the major league ballparks. With 16 unicorn home runs, that means 15% of all the home runs hit at Yankee Stadium last year would not have been a home run at any other stadium in the major leagues. Number 2 on the list is Wrigley Field with 13 unicorn home runs. Wrigley Field last year had 87 total home runs. And again, 14.9% of all the home runs hit at Wrigley Field would not have been a home run at anywhere else. As you look at the stadiums that featured the most total home runs, you find some regular appearances amongst the suspects at the top of the list. Coors Field is tied with Great American Ballpark for the most home runs in all the major leagues. What stands out to me is the massive gap between Coors Field, Great American Ballpark, and the rest of the pack. Both Coors and Great American have 143 home runs each last season, and the third team is Angel Stadium with 126, almost 20 homers more than the next closest stadium. Well, Great American Ballpark, the fences are a little bit closer. It's a little bit easier to hit home runs. It's a little bit more favorable to the hitter. Coors Field, definitely super favorable to the hitter. But the factor that a lot of people aren't considering, and a lot of people aren't talking about, is that the biggest common denominator between a big stadium like Coors Field with a ton of outfield acreage and a smaller stadium like Great American Ballpark with not as much outfield acreage is the fact that both of those teams are terrible. Last year, if you go by team earned run average, last in the majors is the Colorado Rockies. 28th in the majors is the Cincinnati Reds. So these teams roll out pitching staffs that are obviously not good in any capacity. Combine that with extremely hitter-friendly ballparks, and you find yourself at the top of the list for MLB park factor. Now, when you sort out park factor and you rank it just based on 2022, Yankee Stadium is 18th in park factor. And you sit back and say, well, I don't care about the unicorn home runs. They're clearly 18th in park factor. And again, there are multiple facets that people are not considering when they talk about park factor. The way park factor works is it's going to be included in things like expected batting average, expected on base, hard hit percentage. With Yankee Stadium and having the fences closer than most of the other stadiums in Major League Baseball, extra base hits and balls in the gap are not going to be doubles and triples as frequently as other Major League stadiums. On top of that, the Yankees pitching staff last year, as an entire team, was number 3 in all of baseball in ERA, which means they had an incredibly high caliber pitching staff that wasn't giving up a lot of hard hit balls, a lot of extra base hits, a lot of home runs. But my main point of this entire video is that there seems to be a disparity between how certain players are treated in big markets, on big teams with big fan bases, and how their numbers are calculated and quantified and valued by people like, I don't know, MVP voters and fans and people around the game, as opposed to players that perform at a high level at some stadiums that may seem a little bit more hitter friendly, like Coors Field in Denver, like Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, like Minute Maid Park in Houston, where those players put up big stats and big numbers. And the first thing that comes to mind for the fans, for the voters, for people around the game is, oh, well, it's Coors Field. Oh, well, Nolan Arenado put up MVP caliber numbers, but it doesn't matter because he's playing at Coors Field. Or, oh, Joey Votto put up a really good offensive season, but I don't know, it's Great American Ballpark. Or, oh, Bregman hit 35 home runs. Bregman hit 40 home runs. Well, they have the Crawford boxes at Minute Maid Park, so, I mean, I guess you can count it, but it's not really the same. But in the meantime, you look at park factor, and apparently stadiums like Fenway Park, 3rd in park factor, Dodger Stadium, 4th in park factor, Citizens Bank Park, 5th in park factor, and the 2 stadiums that lead the league in unicorn home runs, Yankee Stadium and Wrigley Field, all of those stadiums feature all kinds of really big market teams and franchises. Fenway with the Red Sox, Dodger Stadium with the Dodgers, Philadelphia with the Phillies, Yankee Stadium with the Yankees, Wrigley Field with the Cubs. Everybody seems to just completely forget about or disregard the fact that, well, it's a big market team. Aaron Judge, it's 62 homers. You know what? Aaron Judge is an incredibly talented baseball player. And in fact, probably top 5 in the game when he's healthy. But when Aaron Judge plays at Yankee Stadium and he gets a fastball down and away, and subconsciously he knows that all he has to do is lean out over the plate, put his barrel on the ball, lift it in the air up to right field, and he has a better chance of that ball being a home run at Yankee Stadium than anywhere else in the league. That needs to be a statistic and a metric, or a part of the consideration factor, a part of the conversation when we discuss player value and where they play and all those different things. Because it seems to be handpicked. This guy plays here, so his stats don't mean as much. And this guy plays here, and it doesn't matter. And on the flip side, when you look at this list of park factor stadiums and you go down towards the bottom of the list and you start to find players that are putting up massive offensive numbers at stadiums that are not hitter friendly, that do not allow for a lot of offensive production, that needs to be held to a higher standard. When you go down to the bottom of the list and you find Petco Park dead last in park factor, it is the least hitter friendly ballpark, or at least it was in 2022. And then you look at Manny Machado's statistics. That needs to be more of a considering factor when people are voting for MVP. Of course, Paul Goldschmidt won the MVP. Busch Stadium is 24th in park factor. And I'm not saying Paul Goldschmidt didn't deserve it, because he did. But when you look at offensive metrics and guys putting up big numbers at stadiums that are not hitter friendly, and vice versa, you see guys put up big numbers at stadiums that are hitter friendly, there needs to be a consideration across the major leagues. Otherwise, we're just back to our roots of old-fashioned thinking, old-fashioned stats, homers, RBIs. And I'm not sitting here telling you guys, Yankee Stadium is completely worthless. Aaron Judge is worthless. Anybody who plays with the Yankees is worthless. What I am telling you is to make sure at the end of every season, when things like MVP are up for discussion, when things like best teams are up for discussion, and we start to look at basic offensive numbers, and we completely nullify park factor, or we completely nullify dimensions or caliber of players on these specific teams, that's when I think we start to lose an edge as a fan base of a sport. So make sure you're considering the stadium, make sure you're considering the caliber of players. And at the end of the day, it's the most beautiful thing about the game of baseball, that the dimensions of the stadiums can be completely different, the wall heights can be completely different, and ultimately, it's what makes baseball the best, among a lot of other things. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you guys think I'm coming at this from the right angle, from the wrong angle, if it just doesn't matter altogether. I'm curious what you guys have to say about this, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said earlier on, be sure to slap a like if you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more sports and baseball content. And otherwise, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.